disclaimer slide, which is I don't think I made it. This is not my come and see my career. If that's the impression I give when I make this talk, I have done it wrong. So hopefully. Do I have to start again? What my intro works well. Do you want me to wait?
No.
Okay. So, yes, my disclaimer slide is that I'm here talking about career, and by necessity, I have to talk about my career because it's the only one I can really talk about. It's not mean that I think I made it, nor does it mean that I think this is the only way to run your career or do your career. What I want you to take away from the talk is that this is how VMUG has helped my career. And I think that there's kind of three focus areas: community, networking, and education. And those three areas really, over the last 10 years of being part of VMUG, have helped my career immensely. And to illustrate this, we can look at my first slide, and which I split into two halves, again two halves. The first half being pre-VMUG, and then we have a VMUG epoch, and then post-VMUG. And really before I joined VMUG, there wasn't a huge amount of milestones that I was hitting in terms of my career. I started out working for a charity, and that was my first IT job. Before that, I was a graphic designer, and I learned to build websites. And so I ended up working for the charity building websites for a couple of years, and then in 2003, the IT manager left, and they said, "Can you take over the servers as well?" And that's where my kind of IT career started. And I found out that I was better at doing that than I was at designing stuff. It took off from there. In terms of like VMware, I first used VMware Server in 2006 purely from the point of view of as a charity, you don't have a lot of money, and in order to make the most of the limited hardware that I had, I needed to do more things. So I installed this miraculous VMware server on my Windows servers, and I could then have multiple different services running in different virtual machines, and that was where really my love of virtualization kicked off. I have been blogging since 2007, and it's fair to say that in the intervening probably 6 years, there wasn't a huge amount. I blogged regularly, but there wasn't a huge amount of readership, shall we say. Maybe when I asked my wife to go and read something for me to make it look like I had someone coming. But, there wasn't a huge amount going on. And, my first IT certification happened in 2007. I went off to a boot camp and did MCSA, Sec Plus, for people who remember those kind of certifications. But yeah, there wasn't a huge amount happening, and my career kind of, I would be at a job for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and I'd get bored and I'd want to go and do something else, and there wasn't like a huge amount of progression, I would have said. Now, what happened in January 2012 was I went to my first London VMUG, and it opened up a whole new world to me. First of all, I went because I thought this is brilliant free training, because again, getting training passed by people, it was hard. Companies didn't want to pay for training very much, and I went to this VMUG as a shy, introverted person with very little confidence in my skill set. And by then, I think my skill set, I had a pretty decent skill set. By then, I'd been working in IT for 9 years. I'd become,
subject matter expert in VMware within the enterprises that I was working in, or the small enterprises. But I had no confidence. If you'd known me back then, getting up to talk even to a room full of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people would have made me feel physically sick. I just wouldn't have done it, probably. But I pitched along to my first VMUG. I would hazard a guess that you were there. and it all went from there. So from there, you can see the events that are happening in my post-VMUG timeline start building up. So as a result of a talk that I saw at London VMUG, I went and did my first VCP in December 2012. I met some vExperts and was encouraged to apply for vExpert. They're like, you've got a blog, you've been blogging for years, might as well give yourself a try and apply for the vExpert program, and I did, and I achieved I was awarded it. In July 2013, the VMUG leaders, for some reason, allowed me to talk, and I did my first public VMUG talk in July 2013, and then you can see it starts to build momentum. I did my first advanced VMware exam in August. I went in October to my first VMworld, which was enabled by the vExpert thing. It was a blogger pass. I spoke at my first national UserCon, which was the UK VMUG, in the November of that year. And then my career trajectory changed, and I started working with VMware's cloud products or automation products. So in a really, really short space of time, from that epoch point of my first VMUG, my career suddenly started to grow. And I'm not saying this, as I said before, to kind of brag or to say I think I've made it or anything like that. What I'm trying to illustrate is that the opportunities and the mindset and the education and everything that came along with being involved in a VMUG actually helped me to really accelerate my career. I attempted my first VCDX as part of a study group that was birthed out of people I met at London VMUG in June 2015, and I failed. I don't think I would have tried again had I not been part of a study group who were encouraging me to do so, but I did pass in October 2015, which seems a long time ago now. And then my career changed, and at this point I was working as a consultant for Extrovert, who are one of the sponsors today, who are a partner, and I mostly was doing white label PSO engagements, so I was working as a VMware consultant for VMware. And then my career progressed. I joined VMware as a PSO consultant. I did my first VMworld talk. I got my technical marketing job, and I did that for a few years. And then about 18 months ago, I joined the product management team. So this is where my career is right now. I'm still a product manager. And obviously there's been a few changes recently and things going backwards and forwards and a lot of uncertainty. But I think what I'm trying to illustrate here is that joining a VMUG will not accelerate your career. No, just joining a VMUG will not accelerate your career. But if you join a VMUG and you get involved and you actively seek out opportunities and you make the most of what a VMUG offers you, then it will accelerate your career. The skill sets that you learn as part of speaking in public, I link directly back my first talk in a VMUG, which there it is. That's the first time I spoke at a VMUG. I found a photo. That is me in a pink shirt with no beard talking about automation with Power CLI. And the skill that I learned in those first early days, overcoming my introverted nature, my fear of public speaking, my inability to speak without waving my hands, which I've still not conquered. As you can see, look, I'm still doing that same gesture. but VMUG was a safe space to start learning those skills, and I can link that through now to the presentation work that I had to do on almost daily basis as a technical marketing person, and the skills that I learned, and speaking at London VMUG, at UK VMUG, at VMworld in the US and in Europe, are invitations to VMUGs all over the place, and other V Brown Bags, VMware Code events, all sorts of speaking engagements where I just submitted a paper and somehow got away with it and spoke. All of that was a trajectory which led to the technical marketing thing, and the skills there were all honed and learned in that dingy place in London.
London Chamber of Commerce.
London Chamber, yeah. It's a beautifully lit place. So yeah, the person that you see on stage there would have been physically shaking like this, would have gone out almost straight away at the end of it and gone to the toilet and just had a deep breath and tried to crush the sick feeling in his stomach. It was a skill that I had to learn to speak in public. But it is a skill that I believe everyone can learn. Everyone can learn to speak in public, because it is a skill just like any other skill, just like learning to kick a football or learning to deploy a server. It's a skill. You can learn it, you can practice it, and you can get better at it. And you might think, well, you're standing up there talking like a moron now. Why do you think you're better at it? Well, that's your opinion, I suppose. Education and learning. Now, VMUG sessions introduced me to a whole list of technologies, right? So you saw me previously on that previous slide, I was presenting on Power CLI. Now, I had only learned about Power CLI and what I could do with Power CLI in a VMUG session on that first 2012 session. I think it was Alan Renouf that would have done it, but I can't remember exactly. But someone introduced me to Power CLI, and I learned over the course of the next year, I learned how to use Power CLI, and I started using it in my daily work. I started automating stuff. My boss really liked it because he could pay me the same amount to do more work because it was automated. And it started me actually on the whole automation journey that ended up again where I am now, going through the products that I went through automation, becoming technical marketing, and creating the art of the possible. It was all through these automation skills that I learned first introduced to in that Power CLI session. vCloud Automation Center, vRealize Automation / ARIA Automation were tools that I moved into and actually started using in anger for my day job because of stuff that was introduced to me at VMUGs. NSX was another one. I heard Kevin Barras talking about NSX, and I kind of mind blown moment when I started thinking about virtual networking and stuff. I'd done CCNA before, and I kind of had a bit of routing and switching experience, and this whole NSX thing, it just blew my mind. But I dug into it, I learned it. I ended up being a consultant within the NSX practice in PSO because that introduction to that technology became something that I learned and was able to then use in my day job. And then through being involved in NSX, we started doing stuff around containers because we had the CNI, the Container Networking Interface, that it was ridiculously horrific to deploy in NSX in the early days. And I had to kind of learn, well, what is this Kubernetes stuff? What is PKS? Or what is now TKGI? But it was all, again, through this kind of initial gem of like, what is NSX, and the inspiration to like, okay, I'm going to dig into that and learn this new technology. And similarly, shout out to the vTardis, which started off my journey into home labs. the VTARDIS was a sort of suitcase-sized home lab that was wheeled into London VMUG, and I thought, wow, if he can do it, so can I. So I built my own home lab, and that's where a lot of the learning that, all of these things happened. The learning about it happened in my home lab, and I figured stuff out and made use of things like licenses available through the VMUG Advantage program or the vExpert program, and was able to do a whole lot of self-learning. And I say this not to brag, because it's a bit of paper in the end, but if I look at the certifications that I did between 2013 and 2019, I did over 20 VMware exams. I did I think 12 AWS exams. I did all of the CNCF Kubernetes exams. I did so many exams, and all of this was inspired of, I learned new technology. I was introduced to it, I learned it, and I thought, well, I'll give the exams a go, because I've learned this new technology. Let's see if I can get a bit of paper that shows me. And you can draw a straight line from VMUG to all of the outcomes that I have found in my career. But you don't get that just by attending. You get that by attending, by talking with people, by kind of digging into stuff and getting involved. But the opportunity that you get at VMUG to be introduced to those new technologies and to meet and chat with people who, like Kev Barras, who is like NSX genius level kind of stuff. And I ended up working with, later in my career, doing NSX stuff with him, and the first NSX-T deployment in the UK, because randomly I ended up working in the same projects as him. But all of it comes back to people I met, opportunities, things that I was introduced to that allowed me to be inspired and to go out and start digging into stuff. So I've called this one, the networking section, a leg up for introverts. If you're not an introvert, if you're an extrovert and you like going to say hi to groups of people and stuff like that, I think good on you. If you're more like me, and I think a lot of people in technology are more like me, who don't necessarily want to go and break into a conversation and try and go hi and have that awkward moment. Actually, VMUG is a leg up for anyone who is like that. Now, I started using social media. I started using Twitter, and as a direct outcome of that, someone invited me, or I found out about a VMUG, and I went to my first VMUG, and that was a behind the screen, nobody can see me on Twitter, led to an in-person physical event. We were able to form a study group of people, like-minded people that I met, and I got my VCDX. I met people who were vExperts, and they were the ones that encouraged me to apply for vExpert, and that is again another a fundamental part of that accelerated my career, was getting involved with that program and the opportunities that then provided. And similarly, I met a lot of colleagues. I mean, I met Michael. I met loads of people that I met in London VMUG who I now either work with or have worked with in the past, and actually allowed me to get jobs, or multiple jobs I've put there, because a lot of my roles have been because I've met someone, we've talked about it, they've said, well, why don't you apply for this job? Or because actually networking is way more powerful than LinkedIn. LinkedIn tries to network you with people, but actually networking where you talk to people from the same industry or the same like-minded people is way better. So networking in a VMUG is hugely important, but also if you go and talk, and this sounds like a vendor plug, but it's not. If you go and talk to some of the vendors that will be in the the expo halls, yes, you'll probably get an email and a sales follow-up. You might get a chance to put your name in for a prize or whatever. But actually, quite often, you'll find that they've got some interesting takes and interesting understanding of new technologies and things like that. Especially if say you have like some of the smaller stands, things like that, where less well-known places, I'd encourage you to go and chat with those sort of people as well. I think the example I give for that is when I went to KubeCon a few years ago, and I was just doing the hall crawl thing, going around, and we were talking specifically to a whole bunch of the startups and that sort of thing. And the thing that kept like coming up was this eBPF thing. eBPF, they kept like saying, "Oh, we've got a product, it's eBPF," and I'm like, "Okay, I need to figure out. This is a new technology that I've been introduced to. I need to have a look at it. I need to figure out what it is." If we scroll forward to like just this year, one of my features in the product that I'm product manager for is an eBPF based metrics tool within your Kubernetes clusters. Now, that could be a coincidence, but the knowledge and foundation that I got based on just talking to people at a VMUG-like event or conference event allowed me to know what it was, to talk with some confidence about how we could use it, and to guide the usage of that within the product. So all of these things are like the strands that all sort of build up and allow you to kind of make steps in your career, and they all trace back to my VMUG experience. Oh, there you go. Talk to sponsors, finger on the pulse. There was another slide for that. See, I practiced this. So I've kind of laboured this a little bit, right? But this is the kind of VMUG outcomes thing, the opportunities to learn, the opportunities to speak and present and learn how to do that, the opportunities to network have all directly impacted my career. And I've drawn boxes because that's what I do. But visually, this is the passage from the line from VMUG to career. And so what I kind of want to encourage and talk about one last time, because we're nearly at time, is to make the most of the opportunities that VMUG gives you, right? Like most things in life, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. Joe, in his keynote this morning, was talking about, it would be great if we could have customers and VMUG members doing the talks and not people from VMware like me doing the talk. And that would be brilliant because, like, for me, as a product manager, I'll be able to listen to customers and what the customer problems are, which is part of my job. But, it's a fantastic platform to really start to hone skills, to start to network and people will see you and go, we had something similar to that and we were doing this and that, and you have a great conversation with someone, and that conversation might lead to something else, and you might end up, working together 2 years later because you met this person and you got this really cool idea from it. So I would say absolutely make the most of every opportunity that VMUG gives you. Make the most of the sessions where you might not even be interested. It might be VDI and you might not be interested in VDI, but go and listen anyway because I'm sorry, I'm not interested in it.
You're a VDI
again. But go and learn. Like I wasn't at the point I learned NSX. I wasn't really interested in networking anymore. I was interested in vSphere and virtualized environments, and I went and looked at this NSX session just because I thought I'll give it find out what it's all about, and it changed my career path and my world. VMUG is an opportunity, and those opportunities are not easily available in other places. You don't often meet in a room with 150 other people who are similar career, but maybe a different experience to you, and you don't know who they know. But if you multiply out the connections of 150 people to their connections, your world grows massively. So on that, I'm going to finish because I don't have any more slides. And I would just encourage you, like if you've not done a talk before, maybe sign up local VMUG, do a talk. There are easy ways to access. They do lightning talks and things like that. There are people who will mentor you to start doing talks. There are huge opportunities to get involved, to learn new things, and to network. So, thank you for coming. Finn. Oh, you got a question, have you, Mike?
I've got a question. Actually, I've got a statement first, and that's as an introvert myself, I've got a very similar sort of backstory to the one that Sam's outlined, and kind of wholeheartedly agree with pretty much everything he said, apart from the bit where he picked on Johan.
That's okay, I can take it.
He's Dutch. He's Dutch, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
But my question, actually, do you have any regrets, things, opportunities
At the end of your career, where you are.
I'm retiring this week. I don't know if you know.
Opportunities that maybe you didn't take and wish you had.
Yeah, probably. I would say there were opportunities. There were earlier opportunities to start getting involved and speaking, and a lot of it was down to confidence in myself, and my underestimating my own abilities and my own. Everyone has a story. Everyone has something cool and something unique that they can talk about, but most of us don't talk about them on a stage because we're kind of like, well, why would anyone else want to listen to that? Or at least that was my take on it. So I think my regret would have been not having confidence in myself earlier.
Was it me that did the hand on the shoulder in the pub? I don't know, in Watling Street. So we used to have the VMUG, people would shy away and I'd try and get people to speak. And Sam's a significant minority. For every 10 conversations you'd have, maybe you could get one person who actually was willing to get up in front of others. And I think there's been evidence that people are more fearful of public speaking than they are actually of death. So to actually, it's not, seriously, there was a survey out there, it's not to be underestimated, the actual difficulty in getting up. So we did the V factor.
V-factor.
So Gareth is now on the committee. He was one of, I think, and Dave. We had 2 out of the 5 who got up and spoke for 10 minutes with the lightning talks. And it was about anything and everything. Home labs, Apple, Gareth did the Apple stuff.
Yeah. I remember it vividly because you weren't eligible if you'd done one before, and at the previous VMUG I'd done my first.
Yeah, and it was deliberate to get people up who hadn't previously spoken, because if you don't speak at a VMUG, there's always going to be 5 reasons not to, and you only really need 1 reason to do it. And if you won't do it here amongst a bunch of strangers who are sort of well disposed towards you, you'd never go back to your business and do your first meeting around here. So it is a safe place. Is probably, it's jargon, but it's the right thing. It's the right way of seeing it. So try yourself out.
And they're directly relatable skills in terms of jobs as well. Like I talked about being in technical marketing, but if you don't go into technical marketing and you've got to present to C-suite or a board, or you've got to present to some other audience, being able to do so confidently and communicate yourself is huge.
And, whether it's written or spoken, you change your message for a different audience, and none of us who've done certs, there's any emphasis on communication, but the only way you can actually be powerful in your business or for your employer is sharing what you know, or making it happen, or making an impact. And if we are sort of self-contained and just competent within our own sphere, it's like, the amount of, I think you did some of at the first national event. Was it you who were doing a Power CLI lab, and you were just sort of helping people automate stuff that they'd otherwise have to go into the weekend, and just with a simple script that, so the sharing part of VMUG, I think, is a big thing. And and Duncan, I think, has said that no matter how much he puts in, he always gets more out than he puts in. It's like a bottle that just sort of fills itself up. Those conversations you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Like 10 years later, I'm still coming back to events and speaking when I'm allowed, and still being involved because those exact same reasons. I don't know who I'm going to bump into, who I'm going to talk to, who I might have lunch with, and the next big thing come along. So
what was the turning point for you, Sam, when you had that confidence in your own ability to then put yourself forward for the presentation, or did that come after your first presentation? So I'm kind of in a very similar sort of situation there. As you said, everybody in tech seems to be a little bit introverted. I had that before applying for the vExpert program. Like, how am I going to, what's going to be my unique point for the blog? And as soon as I kind of took away from that and went, well, I'm just going to write about what I'm doing, it became very easy to flow. But I'm at the stage where I want to present a local VMUG, but I don't know what to present about that hasn't already been spoken about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a gradual change of mind. You know, there was a year between when I started attending a VMUG and my first presentation, and I'd been blogging for years and years and years before that. But meeting and talking with people and realising the people that were presenting are just like me. They're just, you know, with a different perspective on a different thing. You know, there was no way my talk on Power CLI was going to be the same as Alan Renouf's talk on Power CLI, right? But my take and what I was doing with it was interesting for the few people that were listening. And I had conversations with people afterwards, and we were chatting about, you know, how we do that, how we do this. So again, it's that whole underestimating the value of your own story thing. That
even that little voice that we all have that says, "Oh, you know, you're not really up to much, or you don't know that much." But if you want to speak, you'll find a topic. Like, yeah, everyone's got a unique. We had in the early days of 2007, we had Amnesty International. They had 2 DL580s. They were running 30 or 40 VMs on each host, purely just due to expense, or, you know, keeping the cost down. And they were basically managed to do a really good session just on how to sweat 2 servers to produce an ungodly amount of VMs on a limited budget. And there's always a way of finding a sort of a route through, you know, whether it's home labs or, you know, what we did in our company to, you know, and also that we imagine the audience as a homogenous whole. Everyone knows everything about everything, and there's always a room for like an entry level sort of chat about, you know, like capacity management or chargeback or automation, you know, and as you said, not everyone, just because there is an Alan doesn't mean that Sam needs to be, you know, coming in at that level. There's always an audience for, you know, my first, I don't know, it would be AI these days, I guess, or something like that. You know, AI for AI 101, or, you know, I think if you want to speak, you'll find a topic.
It's like you said though, for
Like a jumping off point, and ideally it would be so that you're not mixing up the topic with the speaking. You'd find something you're comfortable with, that you know inside out, so that then on a day the speaking bit's going to be on your mind, but the topic that you're already familiar with, you're super comfy with, you can talk around. So take the stress off. Find something that you know very well.
And make it personal. So if you if you are going to talk about, I don't know, NSX, but explain in a session why you are telling the story that you are, I think it makes it more enjoyable to watch. Like, take Explore. So at Explore there were 800 sessions. I would argue that probably 750 are about a certain topic, but pure factual. A lot of architecture, but there were some sessions in where people use storytelling. Like, why am I using microsegmentation for a certain reason, and what's the value I get out of it from a customer perspective, or partner, or vendor. I think it makes it more enjoyable for the audience. But
so war stories. You know, here the practical limits to microseg in a medium business, or, you know, trading of security for operational sort of, you know, transparency, or and also not talking to your slides. So one thing, we've had people who used to come in for a 30-minute session with 65 slides, so that's 2 slides a minute, and really it's you that's got you've got the knowledge, you've got the perspective, you've got the experience. So the slides should be there to support you if necessary, but it's really important that you are in the room, because if you end up looking at the screen, talking to the screen, people will look at the screen, and then you're just a PowerPoint operator, basically.
Exactly.
And, you know, what Sam's doing, sort of standing, facing the audience, and it's very easy to turn because it's a prop. It's like, oh, I'm doing something over here. But it's you that they've come to see, and it's you that needs to sort of look out.
Yeah, typically, like when I present to customers, I'll try and keep the slide, like the information on the slide to a minimum, just high-level bullet points with graphics there to then.
Because otherwise people read rather than listen,
Yeah.
and the eyes take precedence over the ears. So if you put lots of text on the screen, people, their eyes take focus, and they stop listening to what you're saying. So there's loads of good sessions on YouTube of how to present and, you know, getting started, because we all did it the first time once. You know.
2 really good books by Nancy Duarte. She wrote Resonate and / Slidology. Those 2 books are awesome. They'll teach you how to use storytelling, but also how slides should support your story and how they can support your story. So those are my favorite books by far. Look, I have one statement and one question. So
If it's about VDI, we don't care.
yeah, it's definitely going to be about video. No, so I can 100% relate to your story. First time I stood on a stage or had to prepare for being on stage, I literally didn't sleep for 2 weeks. And now, 10 years later, it's my profession. It's my one happy place, and I couldn't have done it without the help of VMUG. I attended my first VMUG, saw future colleagues who now are colleagues present about a data center in the shoebox with Pernix data. That was so awesome that I decided to, so I saw that at VMUG, I decided to switch gears, apply for a job at ITQ, got hired, and they really supported me in developing these skills. And now I'm doing the other way around. I became a VMUG leader in the Netherlands, and we offer a place for people that want to work on their presentation skills or blogging skills or whatsoever, a place to do that. And I think 100%, like what you mentioned, this is what VMUG is all about. Now, one question I got from telling that story is that, and I'd like to ask you the same question. Do you feel you are lucky?
Yes, I feel so. I draw those lines between learning NSX and becoming a PSO consultant, like learning to present and becoming technical marketing. But I didn't ever have an overall plan that I was going to be a technical marketing person or I was going to be a PSO consultant in NSX. I didn't have an overarching plan, so I do feel lucky. I do feel like that I somehow fell into some of these things. But the flip side of that is that I went to the VMUG and there was an opportunity to learn about NSX, and I went to a VMUG and there was an opportunity to speak. And
you did the study, you did the search, you kept
yeah.
learning new topics.
So there's a slide. I don't know if you know it. It's a quote by a very old and apparently famous golf player called Gary Player. It's a coincidence, but he said like the more I practice, the luckier I get. And that's hence the question. I think like all of the things you made conscious decisions which led upon where you are at right now.
There's also a very good definition of luck, which is the happy combination of preparation and opportunity. Yeah. So when opportunity presents itself, if you've done the preparation, you might be in a position to take advantage of it. But if you've not done the prep, then those sort of go whistling by. And I think luck, we commonly understand it takes us out of the equation, but the amount of effort we got the t-shirts knocked up for you and what's his face?
Greg,
that's it. And after the first knockback, you did it again, 8 months later, and tried again. And that's about resilience and determination and effort and application. So I think luck, it plays a part, but there's not intense sweat,
I presented the session at Explore about home labs on behalf of VMUG, and one of the topics I talked about was that you can monetize your blog and use the money to constantly invest in your home lab. So I'm in a position right now that companies like NVIDIA and Intel ship me a ton of GPUs. I don't even ask
where
about
they're
it.
all going.
Well,
that's the supply issues right there.
Yeah, so any of the OpenAI related workloads are all running my lab. No, but the thing is that I got a question from the audience, like how did you get companies to do that? It's simple. I just began blogging about.
Just get started.
I just got started, and another article, and another one, and another one, and a presentation at the VMUG, and use Twitter or X a lot to talk about that. And all of a sudden, like the first company knocks on your door, like, do you want to talk about this or that, and at some
point there is a common thread because we had Julian Wood, myself, Greg, Alan Renouf, I mean, whatever became of him. I saw his blog. He was in Trowbridge and Wiltshire. We got him to come in and do Power CLI and PowerShell in, I don't know, 2010 or something like that. And a lot of speakers who were already blogging. They had a desire to share. They were already communicating and distilling what they knew into a, so a blog is not always the case, but most of the folks like yourself, Sam, already had a blog. They were already inclined to write things up and share things, and
Yeah. And that can be a kind of positive feedback loop in itself, in that, like, I remember there was, like, one day I logged onto my blog website and I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, there's like 300 people this month have looked at my blog. Like, there must be some value in there, and so you don't want to get hooked up on blog numbers, because that's but if
wife just doing everything.
yeah, if that can become a positive feedback loop, like, people actually are reading what I'm writing, so it's not like useless. It's not just my own thing, but people are interested in it, and so you can start building your confidence from there. No, I wouldn't say to take your confidence from blog numbers, because my blog post numbers are gone because I've stopped blogging because I'm in different roles. So yeah, it's a good start. It's a good way to start formulating your ideas and structuring them in a particular way that you can communicate to other people.
And that's also a good way to start, like, a presentation. If you fully wrote down the things that you want to say in a blog, and then convert that to, like, a presentation, find the slides that go with it, it's a great way to start the presentation as well.
He doesn't know we're just chatting in here. Keeps coming in with his paddle. Well, I think the conversation was way more useful than my presentation, so thank you for all the questions. Anyone else got any more comments or questions? Or?
Look forward to seeing you at future events.
Well, you never know. I mean, might be working for McDonald's next week.
Which case, Big Mac, please.
A special one for you out the back.
With extra sauce.
Cool, thanks for sharing.